For those folks who are watching who are not in Bitcoin or are thinking about buying Bitcoin at these prices, are you saying that this is a fair and good price to get in?
Bitcoin's down roughly 15% from its highs, which for a hyper-volatile asset is a pretty normal correction, and it is slightly following global liquidity, but we're pretty early in this halving cycle. So to me, I think Bitcoin in the near term, again, our technician thinks 70,000 is where we can sort of make a stand. Means you're getting a big opportunity because I think Bitcoin's going to be one of the best performing assets.
So hold on, but you still think it goes all the way down to 70,000, or you think that's the floor, in which case you would still buy at this price?
You know, Bitcoin is something you need to be long-term focused. I don't think anyone's going to lose money buying here at 90. If they're trying to time this, maybe they'll get lucky and it goes to 70, but to me, Bitcoin could be significantly higher this year, you know, maybe 200, 250s.
Financial analyst and Bitcoin bull, Tom Lee, discusses his prediction for all Bitcoin investors and why he believes $400 trillion is about to pour into Bitcoin. After the Bitcoin halving in 2024, which Lee says marked the beginning of an absolute surge in price, we saw multiple all-time highs for Bitcoin. Bitcoin is sitting just above $95,000, up over 6% just in the last month. Lee believes Bitcoin is about to make history, as we witness one of the biggest price rises so far since the creation of the dominant cryptocurrency. The story has become even bigger in 2025 because of the Bitcoin ETFs, with thousands of institutional investors across the United States now buying Bitcoin. The demand for the leading digital asset has increased exponentially and more than the daily supply. This has caused a never-before-seen supply-demand imbalance for Bitcoin, and Tom Lee says everything is about to change. Don't forget, our partners at Jamie Tree Finance have launched a daily 5-minute crypto newsletter with all the latest crypto and Bitcoin news. It's a fantastic analysis of on-chain crypto data and breakdowns, and the best part, it's absolutely free, which will cover expert predictions, breakdowns of on-chain crypto data, and any breaking news that you need to know, all in a nutshell. Click the first link in the description and enter your email to join over 50,000 others in becoming a better crypto investor right now.
I think Bitcoin is something you don't want to own if you believe there's another way to measure trust. I think that's many years away because even the United States may potentially own Bitcoin as a reserve asset. That is a huge endorsement of the security of the Bitcoin blockchain.
What do you think your Bitcoin percentage ought to be in sort of a model portfolio?
I generally don't try to advise people on allocation. Because how much someone puts into bonds, and bonds are less risky, depends on their tolerance for risk and their age, and also how much money is in the stock market versus their total net worth. So those are three variables that I don't know, and that's why we don't usually advise an allocation mix. But I can say that we've recommended initially, when we first wrote about Bitcoin, that investors put 1% into Bitcoin. And if they didn't sell that Bitcoin, even with the stock market gains, it's now 40% of their portfolio. Our second suggestion was 0.5% into Bitcoin. Today, we're recommending at least 2 to 5% into Bitcoin, but that is as a commodity or alternative exposure, because if they invest 2 to 5% of their money and somehow crypto goes to zero, they didn't lose everything. But if Bitcoin reaches some of the targets we expect, then Bitcoin could end up becoming 50% of their portfolio again.
Being a very strong Bitcoin bull with a 1 year and 5 year forecast, if you'd like to tell the audience what you're thinking they might be and why you feel so strongly about Bitcoin.
To us, Bitcoin represents one of the most trusted assets in the world because we're living in a digital age where AI and cybersecurity threats have really undermined trust in both dealing with each other, but also in financial institutions. The Bitcoin blockchain is still the most secure ledger in the world. It has not had a single hack in its 14-year history. And that means the price of Bitcoin represents the value of trust in a trustless world. We've been recommending Bitcoin for 8 or 9 years, and it remains, in our view, a core asset. If we look at the price performance of Bitcoin, and we do have to look at price because it's a measure of its trust, it's following very closely previous halving cycles, and that implies Bitcoin should be around 100 to 150,000 in the near term, but could easily get close to 500,000 in 5 years. At 500,000 per Bitcoin, it would still be less than the value of gold today. And I think Bitcoin will surpass the value of gold, which would put the value much closer to $1 million per Bitcoin.
Embracing an unyielding enthusiasm for the Bitcoin realm, Lee confidently predicts that explosive growth is looming on the horizon, as BlackRock and many other crypto giants are doing just that. Tom Lee reassures that a long-expected surge awaits as 2025 begins.
Given the results of the election and what we know so far about the cabinet picks, what is your view on how the markets look and what they might be in 2025 in terms of equities, in terms of bond yields, crypto, as well as commodities, if you take those in turn?
Trump is one of the most market-friendly presidents ever, meaning he's going to focus very much on and rate his presidency based on how the stock market does. And so that's good for investors, because if he introduces policies that worry markets, like deficits too big or tariffs too aggressive, he'll see it in the stock prices. I think the safest way to navigate this from our perspective is to focus on things that we all agree he'll pursue. Deregulation, pro-business and market-friendly, which means financials and small caps, but he does want to make the government more efficient and even do tariffs. So I think multinationals are a little more challenging, and industrials like defense would be challenging, and of course negative for healthcare and energy. And then from a crypto perspective, it's clear to me that he's pursuing a very pro-digital assets platform. I mean, he ran on the idea of Bitcoin potentially becoming a reserve asset. Almost all of his key advisors are large owners of Bitcoin. So I think Bitcoin is going to be very central to the White House initiatives over the next 4 years, which of course is positive for Bitcoin. Over the next 4 years, there is a White House put. If the stock market starts to fall, this is going to drive some action or communication from the White House. As you know, whenever there's been a Fed put, when the Fed is dovish, then investors are confident buying stocks regardless of circumstances, because they know the Fed is protecting the stock market. Over the next 4 years, we might have both a White House put and a Fed put. I think that's very positive for stocks. I wouldn't overthink it. We've followed crypto for 7-8 years now, and we've seen many what they call altcoins come and go. I think the most important thing to think about if you're going to buy altcoins is, number one, if you're investing in an altcoin, you should measure how useful that token is or the size of the community. But the second thing to keep in mind is that when crypto is in what they call crypto season, when it's in a bullish cycle, the altcoins do very well. So if Bitcoin can go from 90,000 to 500,000, many altcoins will do better, but those are not investments, those are trades.
Tom Lee challenges the conventional economic metrics, asserting that these metrics are often manipulated to paint a specific narrative, like labor statistics and inflation figures. The ongoing adoption of Bitcoin by governments, institutions, and media signifies a broader recognition of its value. However, Lee asserts this journey is just the beginning, comparing the initial years to the current widespread interest and investment, with a giant spotlight on Bitcoin ETFs. Lee highlights this being a significant development in the financial ecosystem, selectively measured to create desired effects rather than reflecting the true state of the economy. In this context, Bitcoin emerges as an alternative, detached from the manipulations of the conventional economic sphere. Lee also highlights that established corporations like Apple, Amazon, and Google will use their established relationships acquired over decades to swiftly acquire substantial amounts of Bitcoin through a spot ETF, bypassing the cumbersome processes involved in procuring the actual commodity. This disparity underscores the transformative power of cryptocurrencies in traditional financial institutions. Michael Saylor underscores the importance of embracing digital currencies as the economic landscape is changing rapidly, and urges investors to leverage Bitcoin's potential to secure a more prosperous financial future. What do you think about the latest interview with Tom Lee? And how do you think Bitcoin's trajectory in the coming months will impact the crypto market and the world of investing?